Всем добрый день. А меня
Hello, guys. I hope you can hear me.
Ребят, меня слышно? Нет, помашите там.
Can you wave or do something?
Слышно.
Thank you. Good.
Я Шварц-Асинт, соответственно, и я
So I'm Schwartz Osint. I'm an Osint analyst. I'm doing this sort of analysis for various applications in various scenarios. And I will be talking about GEOINT today.
My name is Schwarz-Asint. I'm OSINT analytic. And you better learn Russian. Хорошо, давайте теперь немножечко вкратце о том, что такое GEOINT и как он вообще
Now, let me briefly explain what GEOINT is and how it all started.
Скажем так, человек всегда волновали вопросы «что», «где», «когда». На вопрос «что» отвечал Асинт.
We've always been interested in who did what and where. And GEOINT answers the where question, while OSINT usually answers the who question and what question. GEOINT is done by independent researchers like me, but also law enforcement people or investigative journalists. So you may want to learn where a particular photo was taken or a video recording.
Когда мы уже разобрались немножко с понятийным аппаратом, кто это?
Now that we have agreed more or less on the terminology, I got to tell you something about myself. I'm an analyst. I've produced a couple of reports, and I'm one of the people behind OSINT Workshop, where we teach people some OSINT tricks. Lots of things there you may want to learn if you're interested, and these are some of my contact details.
Скажем так, PDF-ка работает очень долго, она будет.
I've been using this PDF for a long time. The presentation will be available. Please note that every tool, every picture is clickable. You can find more information as part of this presentation. So where can we use GEOINT? For example, we can use it for investigative journalism, for fact-checking. So in a particular community, they said that a Ministry of Foreign Affairs of a particular country is in a near-critical condition in a hospital.
Гипотезу и выяснил, что на самом деле Лавров находится в резиденции в Индонезии, которая принадлежит Министерству иностранных дел Индонезии. Все с ним нормально. Следовательно, гипотеза о том, что должностное лицо находится в реанимации, была опровергнута. Второе – это, естественно, военные действия. Дело в том, что на просторах интернета была найдена видеозапись о том, как некое бандформирование тренирует своих бойцов на новой территории. Есть такое место Форчан, и Форчану очень сильно не понравилась деятельность этих людей. И они коллективно с помощью, скажем так, упорства и в некотором смысле отваги нашли место, где находится эта самая военная база, и скинули его какому-то министерству, способному нанести туда удар. Ну, результат мы видим налицо. База была уничтожена. Ну и все на самом деле не так зубасто. Иногда это можно использовать просто, чтобы делать людей счастливыми. Вот эти вот ребята обратились к человеку с очень большими компетенциями в GEOINT и сказали: чувак, мы поженились вот где-то вот здесь вот на видеозаписи, но мы не помним, где это. И он, собственно, смог определить, где находится видеозапись, и они смогли восстановить свой момент в памяти во второй раз. Вот. И у меня перестал работать кликер. Вот. Дело в том, что я эту презентацию уже рассказываю второй раз, и инструментов будет немножко побольше, и, соответственно, здесь раньше была другая картинка. Но я очень долго говорил о том, что один аналитик хорошо, а два лучше. Появился инструмент Feld. Что позволяет делать Feld? Он позволяет редактировать карту онлайн. Соответственно, вы даете другому ссылку, и как на примере Google документов, вы просто вместе сидите и редактируете выбранную, скажем так, вами отрезок карты. Это просто демонстрационный вариант, когда кейс сложный, когда человек 5-10, они могут брать разные объекты исследования, разные зоны исследования, помечать, что они посмотрели. Или же этот инструмент может быть использован для, скажем так, как произошло какое-то событие, нужно очень быстро нарисовать карту этого события, где что произошло и так далее. Поэтому методология, собственно, вот им была очень сильно улучшена. Рекомендую его использовать в связочке. Но начнем с самого простого. Когда кто-то увидел надпись метадата, наверное, все уже закатили глаза. Какая метадата 2023? Но нет, во-первых, у американцев она часто в фотографиях проскакивает. Во-вторых, за спрос...
2023, well, in American photos, you can still find a lot of metadata. And after all, is that difficult for you to check metadata? If you do get a picture, make sure you start by checking metadata. You can use EXIF Tools, which is a standalone application, a good addition to your desktop.
GPS-координаты.
So, if the author wasn't careful, you will find the exact coordinates there. Alternatively, EXIF is available as an extension for Mozilla.
Обязательно всегда это делайте, потому что, возможно, вы сэкономите себе 2...
Please do that, because by doing this, you can actually save yourselves a couple of hours or maybe more. Another way is another important tool is quality enhancement. Not a single neural network can be really good at that. Neural networks, AI, can invent things that were not there. So you cannot really rely on that. But human eyes really love easy narration, so to speak. In my different presentation on face recognition, I prefer to talk more about that. Now, as long as we talk about pictures, raise your hand if you've heard this Lamborghini story already. I promise I will stop showing this picture because I think everybody knows it by now. So the case was about identifying the exact location of that car. So we started by using cleanup pictures to remove the car so that Google or some other search engine would help us at least identify the region where the picture was made. That did not help much. That's why we decided to remove the background. We decided, well, maybe this particular Lamborghini belongs to a very limited series. That would tell us a lot. It does work at times. Take, for example, this office photo. We see this beautiful building there, which looks sort of matte, and we have the window obstructing it. We can use cleanup pictures to remove everything but the building. Now, if we are working with a video recording, what happens quite often is that if we're interested in a particular recording, will be some panorama, right? So when a person is doing GEOINT or OSINT, very often they develop kind of tunnel vision. Imagine you've been analyzing your data for 4 or 5 hours. Like, I'm speaking from experience here. It's very easy to stop seeing the forest behind the trees. It's very important to maintain a broad spectrum of vision, so to speak. So if you can use panoramas, and Huggins can help you in this respect. So imagine a person is taking a video recording of some incident, for example. So, for example, we see this building over here. Maybe the exact building that got crushed or whatever, you won't be able to find, but a neighboring building may be much easier to locate. So make the most of panoramas. Now let's talk about dealing with specific objects in videos and photos. Now, quite often we see things that have not been covered by Google or Yandex. In this respect, mountains can be an extremely important landmark. Mountains are indexed. There are not too many mountains in the world, in any case. Moreover, there are in fact 3 tools that help you scan the landscape of this planet and check what a particular mountain will look like from one or the other perspective. Who can recognize the mountain? Absolutely, that's the Ararat Mount. Now, what do you think is the relevance of that particular mountain for that particular gentleman? Absolutely. That's a well-known Soviet spy. However,
Подарили ему картину, ну, через 3 секунды, естественно.
he was
Но была
gifted this picture with the Mount of Ararat.
Советского Союза. И я,
And the problem was that, this Mount of Ararat was shown from the Soviet side, which is not exactly a dead giveaway, but a bad move.
Там какая-нибудь видеозапись, вы знаете, в горной местности часто что-то
No,
случается.
you certainly know lots of things happen in the mountains.
Как точный элемент
You can use the particular outline of a mountain to exactly locate the incident.
то или иное происшествие. Я бы вам показал, как это используется, но
I would love to show how I do that, but probably I shouldn't.
связанные с событиями
That
Азербайджаном, соответственно.
particular case involved Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict,
С помощью
which
теней
is still simmering, right?
во-первых,
Another important tool is related to shades and shadows.
и второй
With tools like this, we can guess,
когда
where it was all happening based on the position of shadows.
Земля ходит вокруг Солнца по определенной последовательности
Since there is a particular pattern to how the Earth rotates around the Sun,
каждый день.
shadows will appear pretty much in the same spot, at a predictable point in time. So we can use things like shadow calculator
Время
to identify when a particular photo was made, was made based on the timestamp.
материал охрана.
I'm sorry, based on where it was.
Понять, когда был сделан тот или иной
Let
медиаматериал.
me give you a particular case.
Прошу, изучайте. Вот. И мы переходим
Oh, right. The link to the case was in the previous slide.
к аналитике.
Now let me tell you about automated tools. I think that a good analyst is lazy
Перебирать и терять.
because, a person who is not lazy will try to brute force things, and this is bad for your cognition.
Но человек должен
So whatever can be automated should be automated as long as you understand what's happening under the hood.
делать, загружаю его в 3 сервиса. Это
So when I get a new photo,
Image.
the first thing I do is check it
Ищет просто ту же самую.
on Google and Yandex and do reverse image search.
Уже был выложен пост.
So I use the popular search engines to look for the same photo
Покажу чуть
or similar photos having the same context. I will show you examples later.
что похоже на то, что
Advanced object search
и с недавних пор
will involve searching for the same kind of content.
находить
And Lens
объекты на карте. И не только
has been quite good.
да, вполне себе какие-то загвоздки, например, в Японии. Дело в том, что, возможно, GEOINT как дисциплина года через 2-3 исчезнет просто потому, что Google наконец-то проиндексирует все свои Google Maps, и вот эта штука будет находить все за нас. Ну что ж, это будет очень хорошо, потому что много хороших вещей сделается. Но пока что, да, он иногда справляется, иногда достаточно нетрудно найти практически видеозапись или картинку, просто кинув ее в Google, но аналитик все-таки это аналитик. И еще один автоматический инструмент, вообще моя любимая штука, она предполагает, где была сделана фотография, и предполагает крайне неплохо. Что это такое? Это какая-то научная работа какого-то немца в университете нейросеток. Почему она там лежит в общем доступе, я не знаю. Но в чем заключается суть? Вот та же самая Lamborghini. И, соответственно, мы загружаем ее в сервис. Сервис безошибочно, подчеркиваю, определяет, что ламба стоит в Индонезии.
So this way, we can discover that it's all located in Indonesia.
Он очень
And this
языку поиска и
is pretty simple because Google is very sensitive to VPN and the language of search. So first thing we do is do geolocation estimation. Try to identify where the photo was made, then we change language settings, hoping that this is how Google will be more amenable to us. And it does work, apparently.
инструменты. Иногда автоматизация доходит до
Now with automated tools,
абсурда, но в ней уже нужно
automation
отдельно
gets,
автоматизировать всё.
it's not that we're taking automation to the extreme, but we do take it far. Overpass is a pretty complicated thing.
Просто пишешь, какие объекты ты видишь на фотографии.
So in Overpass, you identify the objects you see in the photo in a language you choose, like flags, monitors, or river. Then you mention how distant they are from each other. So I have a couple of roads and a lamppost. And it tells me that these are all the places on the map which meet this particular set of criteria. I'm not going to talk about it because it is the subject of a great report by a colleague of mine named Dukera. You can also use Search on Map bot. It should help you develop the right kind of prompt. And OSM Tag Finder naturally helps you with tags. You know, we do have enthusiasts that populate the map and maintain numerous tags in it. And Bellingcat has recently developed their own tool, which makes this whole process even simpler. So we do have a bunch of tags you can click.
На каком расстоянии находятся эти объекты.
Then you indicate how far away from each other these objects are.
История как с Google операторами или доргами. Автоматизация не выход, поскольку в этом надо
So it shows that automation is not a panacea. You first need to understand it works, but after that you can start automating. And if you try automating from the very beginning, then you will be using it as a kind of a magic wand and you will be a hostage of it. And finally, mapping tools. This is the bread and butter of what we do. So the interface on the right has been burned into my eyes already. So once we've done our analysis, we've have ideas about where a particular recording could have been made, we start brute forcing. So we go to a particular area of suspicion. Then we start crawling over it map-wise, so looking for something similar. That requires different tools. For example, Yandex maps are much better at showing what's happening in Russia, while Bing tends to have some very good photos for China, of all places, while Google Chrome and Google Earth is the best because it has most panorama photos, and Madakari has some good quality, up-to-date photos. The problem is that there are so few of them. GeoInt also requires specialized tools. Take Dual Map, for example. Dual Map helps you look at 3 types of map at the same time. The aerial photography, and, well, you can actually see it. Quad Map can be very good for United States because for the US market, we do have lots of 3D models. And we also use Map Compare in order to double-check our ideas. Certainly, we need to consider satellite photography as well. Satellite photography is more difficult now because Maxar and other operators are no longer serving the Russian market. There are workarounds for sure, but buying and analyzing satellite imagery in Russia now would form pretty good presentation in its own right. So I'm not gonna do that now. However, this is a free photo of Taiwan I was able to find. And, you know, it's pretty dated, but at the time I found it, it was very up to date. So had something happened on Taiwan around that time, I would have been able to see, you know, the military ships there. And you probably realize that lots and lots of people are using satellite imagery right now, and Russia in this respect is not as advanced as the USA, for example. Now, to entertain you a bit, let's try identifying where this happened. So a particular subscriber of mine decided to highlight this body of water, and then he fed it to Google, and Google instantly told him that was Bern in Switzerland, which is the correct answer. So water bodies are a good, you know, shortcut. Oh, right, one more thing you need to do if you want to do GeoInt is to keep collecting up-to-date maps. Now, very often interesting things happen outside of the, really advanced countries, and countries, say in Africa or in Asia, are not necessarily properly mapped. So, a researcher named Santos was analyzing this stuff on Twitter, and she said that, a particular militant group meted out some punishment to people, and all she had was this photo.
Вот незадача, в Гугле этого места просто нет.
Well, the problem was that, the tweet mentioned a particular location, but this location could not be found on Google. And if we want to have high-quality maps, we gotta go to charity groups, non-profits, and they're often very open with their data. So this was happening in Afghanistan. So she got in touch with some Afghan groups, Afghan non-profits, and they were able to help her real quick. So they gave her a map which helped her find the province of Kapisa and the town of Chivan. So interestingly, this place was obviously shown on Google Maps. It was simply not marked. And then she was able to find that building on a map dating back to 2018, and then she did her verification. This is how she cracked that particular case.
И мы подходим к самому, скажем,
And
чем мы занимаемся в рамках этого.
the most important, the most interesting thing we do is analysis of the image. I mean, all these tools I've been talking about are great, but if you don't have much between your ears, you won't be a good analyst. With every step, you need to take more and more unknowns out of the picture. Like you start with the continent. Then you go to the country, province, city, and street. How do you do that? Well, you can use Google Dorks, and this is something I learned from Dedlar. Sometimes, in maps, you don't get to see a particular part of the street. For example, we can learn that a particular town we need is 2 men. We don't know the street, but we know that the number of a building is 37. So Google will instantly show all buildings 37 in the city of 2 men. So this is the decision tree we use when we do geolocation based on advertising banners. And I'm showing you just an excerpt of this decision tree. We study very closely each and every detail in order to glean information about what do we see there, like what country could it be, what kind of currencies do you use, what kind of emails do we get to see in ads, and so on and so forth. That should tell us something about the probability of this or that country. Now, going back to the Lamborghini case, let me see how this particular methodology can be applied. So all the markup is already here. Naturally, we're interested in the license plates, we're interested in the language, we're interested in the buildings and in the road signage. But also note the orange stripe on the building. That was actually a pretty difficult case. And the whole community took about 2 weeks to crack it. First thing we did was to look for license plates on Google, and it told us that it was Singapore. And it was obvious to see that this bastard was parking his Lamborghini in a disabled parking place. But imagine that you're looking for a parking spot in a city which has a lot of parking space. But then we identified this orange stripe on the building, and a subscriber of mine was able to find an up-to-date map of Singapore, which highlighted colors of buildings. So this particular building was not marked up on that particular map, but that took us in the right direction. So here you see the building, and you see the road signage and the road signs. Eventually, we're able to locate the exact location. Now let me tell you about the methodology to sort of wrap it all up. We are looking for metadata. If metadata is missing, which it often is, we may want to start by building a team that will work with. Because doing it together is a lot of fun, and moreover, people have different competencies, so it's useful. Automated tools can be good as long as you know what you're doing. Google and reverse image search are the most common ones. After that, we'll start working with the images and objects in these images. We try to identify things that are particularly specific. Effectively, we try to glean all the information we can, could be from man-made objects or the landscape or whatever. If we're looking for something very special, we may cast our net wider. For example, if we don't find anything in the photo, then we will try to engage the organizations that could have been interested in the same asset or maybe the same location. After that, we'll analyze assets in the image and we'll try to understand why, this particular asset's not others, what kind of role they play, and in which part of the map and which part of the neighborhoods you can actually run into them. And this is how we go, from country to province to city and so on. And then, when you know which city, for example, you can get in touch with somebody in that city and ask them, do you know where that is? I mean, sports-wise, it's not a good move, and, in GEOINT, we prefer to do everything in a row, but if you need to crack it real fast, there is nothing wrong about that.
После чего случается геоцирование. Это когда вы примерно поняли, что
After that, when you pretty much understand where the street is, you start geolocation, but you gotta do verification first. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in this, a situation not dissimilar to that of a person identifying Mr. Lavrov as being critically sick. So do not forget the verification stage. And once it has been verified, you can say you've cracked the case. And as they say, practice, and only practice, is the yardstick for truthfulness. Just by listening to my presentation, you won't learn anything. We do have two specialized groups. Mine is called GEOINT. It's available on Telegram, and there you'll find like 550, 800 subscribers, and we do simple things, but also complex things there as well. The Lamborghini case, it was a pretty difficult case. So the other group is led by a friend of mine. I gotta be frank. I'm a bit of an amateur, and the other channel is run by the best GEOINT person I know. He's several leagues ahead of me. So if you know already a lot about GEOINT, check out his channel. But this is a QR code leading to my channel, where you can find most of the information I'm sharing. Thank you very much.
Может, есть у кого-нибудь вопросы?
Anybody has questions, I wonder?
Прошу вас. Да, вы, да, именно вы.
Of my questions, something about percentages. But very difficult to make out.
Правильно ли я понял, что вопрос заключается в том, сколько процентов моих кейсов удается все-таки раскрутить? Правильно?
Oh, if I understand the question right, you're asking me how many of my cases are actually successful. No, I'm rather asking you about percentage of successful case when you have very little actionable information in the picture. GEOINT in Russia is still in its infancy.
Приносили два кейса на кручение. Я решил.
I was given 2 cases when I was entering this industry. I cracked the first one, and another group beat me to the second one.
Чтобы ее потом не найти. Естественно, если кто-то сфоткает пол, и потом
You know,
найди, ну да, никто не...
you can take a picture of the floor here. I don't think people will be able to identify where it is. If the photo is made to sort of commit to memory the particular location, it is addressable, like it will be solved over time. The matter, the big question is how long will it take, how much it will cost.
Так и мы в различных чатах...
Both people here and much more people in other countries are doing GEOINT. A lot of GEOINT is naturally done by the law enforcement agencies.
с ним справились. То есть мы можем говорить о практически 100%, но кейс-то 2.
Well, I can tell you that, we've been given like 2 cases and the community has taken care of both. But again, I represent, the amateurish part of this community. Take my friend, GEOINT. Like, he is
Ну вот кофе стоит,
an insane freaking machine. Like,
и стол, и все. И он
he wakes up in the morning, he does nothing but GEOINT. You show him a picture of a table with like a bun on it and a cup of coffee, and he'll tell you where it was made.
Ну,
Off my question.
куда это все придет, правильно?
If I hear you correctly, the question is, where will the industry evolve
В
next?
самом начале у него сервера в Америке.
Well, Felt, I told you about, has got servers in the United States. So imagine that a Russian group of OSINT analysts will start doing something. And, then the CIA operative can sort of quickly learn everything they've done.
Только вот с редактированием карты было вообще круто.
I wish we would have a more reliable collaborative tool, like Yandex Documents, but for maps.
Google Map, соответственно.
I mentioned that we use Google Maps a lot for verification.
Свою карту, вот эту вот панораму, проиндексировать
If Google indexes up
именно этих,
all its panoramas
то 90%
in Lens and Google Maps,
но это очень...
90% of our cases
Я уверен, что они...
will require just a single button press, but that would give so much
А вот просто дать общественность,
intelligence power.
что они вот
And I guess they've already done that. I think they have already weaponized it for internal use. But I don't really think they're going to make it available elsewhere.
будут решаться только
And
руками.
even if something like this becomes publicly available, it will still be a small percentage of cases that can only be done manually.
Дронами. Надеюсь, меня не...
For example, there is a lot of demand now for geolocating footage made by drones. I guess you know where these drones are flying. So lots of people are doing this. Some people are doing it free of charge. Others are charging money for that. Right now, in the context of the war, GEOINT is
Выполнение
as
обязанностей.
important as it has ever been,
Как бы,
or more important than it has ever been.
в общем, иногда людям приходится заниматься им буквально на ходу.
Yes, sometimes people have to do it on the fly, and many people trying to do it right now have got no clue what they're doing.
Аналитикам.
That's why they sometimes turn to those who are more professional at that.
Объяснила необходимость GEOINT
The
здесь.
thing is that, our recent events have shown how important GEOINT is.
Знакомиться заранее.
The school of hard knocks, if you see what I mean.
Девушка?
The lady over there.
Будем джентльменами, девушке дадим.
Let's be gentlemen, okay?
Прошу вас.
Спасибо.
Here.
Как вы думаете, могут ли быть какие-то
Do you think
ограничения
that there can be some limitations or constraints for
целями?
GEOINT experts due to political
Быть
reasons?
связанные
What do you mean?
на открытые источники информации.
Ага, да.
Well, maybe access of GEOINT professionals can be limited to public
Сможет ли
data.
каким-либо
In other words, you're asking me if the state can sort of intervene in this market?
Уже ограничен, потому что все-таки
Truth be told, he has already been limited.
у нас в законодательстве есть интересный
In the Russian legislation,
ФСБ, который говорит о том, что
there is a recent FSB order, Federal Security Bureau order,
данных, которые не составляют
which
государственную,
lists
если оно будет передано
types of data which cannot be considered confidential, but there is also a list of information types that
очень много.
if it is handed over to foreign operators will actually make you criminal liable.
Это иностранным куратором и так далее.
So,
В принципе, это может быть квалифицировано как шпионаж.
if you're doing GEOINT in Russia and then somehow your information ends up in the hands of foreign operators,
Рассказал,
you risk going to jail.
и ползать в Google картах
Can the government find you doing that?
практически невозможно.
I don't really see how. I mean, the process itself is pretty simple and all the tools I've described already. However, they can nab you when you're handing over your findings.
За нее будут просто очень хорошо платить, и человек этим заниматься в отношении...
Or alternatively, you know, they can find people who know how GEOINT works and persuade them, for example, pay them handsomely so that they, you know, do not have to serve foreign
Давайте
orders.
тогда у меня. А есть ли
My
какие-то
question then.
контры борьбы с вами, чтобы я бы все-таки...
Like, how do I counter you guys? How can I upload my photos to Instagram
по этим фотографиям?
so that you cannot find where the photo was made? It's impossible to fight me, for sure.
По поводу контргеоинт. Дело в том,
As regards counter geointelligence,
фотографии не дает индексировать. Или
you probably know that Meta doesn't allow indexing of their photos. So if you take a photo of something,
много лайков, много репостов,
you upload it to your social media, but it's, you know, stays on Instagram or Facebook, even if it has scored many likes,
никогда такого не видел.
you know, and you take a snapshot of the same picture and run it through Google. Google will tell you, I've never seen it.
Фотографии. Они, конечно,
All meta services remove metadata from their photos. I guess they store all this metadata in Mark Zuckerberg's servers,
по
but we don't get to see it.
фотке в
So if we're trying to do geointelligence on the basis of a Facebook or Instagram photo, naturally we don't get access to this metadata.
фоне что-то находили.
However,
На самом деле,
I've seen people doing perfect geolocation
важное, что ты делаешь.
using a lamppost of all things.
В этом заключается контргеоинт.
So, you know, the best advice I can give you is not to take photos of something that you don't want to be seen.
Расширю вопрос.
Let me build on my question.
Фотографии, прежде чем...
I'm talking about
Просто для примера было.
manipulating my photos before I upload them. Okay,
Думать, отзеркалить и шум наложить.
that's easy. Add some noise and mirror the photo.
Отзеркалить обратно и уже по общим...
But then, you know, as a GeoInt analyst, I'm telling you that, so you can rest assured that GeoInt analysts will do that.
Поиска изображения.
But that will at least protect you against automated search.
Что на фотографии...
Well, OSM, for example, will not be stopped by that. You know, OSM is a professional tool.
Блюрить просто все, что не важно. Да.
Or alternatively, you can blur everything that's unimportant.
Вы блюрите. Ну, тогда аналитика...
So you keep focus on what's really important. Everything else is blurry as hell.
Дитор прошел.
There was this
Там была сфоткана...
very interesting case in our community where they made a photo of a shadow of a monument.
JB314. JB, привет.
JB314, I know you're watching this. A great, very talented girl was able to crack this one. 2 months it took the community.
Можно сделать многое.
So a lot can be done to make geointelligence more difficult. More questions, guys? The lady over there?
Все.
Is that it?
Вопрос.
Oh, right. This must have been the last question.
Вам отвечу после...
How about I just talked to you personally, so the last question goes to lady.
формировании атаки на цепочку поставок.
Talking about supply chain attacks.
Повторите, пожалуйста, я не расслышал.
На сколько процентов GEOINT участвует при формировании атаки на цепочку
Like,
поставок?
do you get to see a lot of GEOINT in supply chain attacks?
Я просто, извините, я не...
Is that a logistics question? I'm sorry, I know so little about cybersecurity.
Ну, в целом, да, думаю, здесь больше логистики больше подойдет.
Yeah, logistics could be an answer to this question. You know, in my channel, we have this translated case about killers from Montenegro looking for their former friends before they killed him. He apparently owed them money. So GeoInt is a pretty popular practice. I don't know how widespread it is in the supply chain attacks, but I do know that criminals are interested in information. I guess there must be some black hats on the GeoInt side as well. So I'm guessing that the tools we are using, you know, on the side of light, so to speak, can be abused
Да,
for the dark side as well.
чуть-чуть его подрошить.
Have I answered your question? Yes, you have, but I want to embellish on that. I'm sorry. Can we take it off the stage? Because people are showing that I've taken more time than I had. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to see you all.